If you're someone who knows how to push, but lately you just can't seem to quiet the noise, reset after a hard moment or during a hard moment, or just be present without your brain running 100 miles an hour, then this is for you. I'm Sharissa, and I help high performers master their inner game. I teach them how to quiet their mind in any moment, and I just wrote a training manual basically for a mind that won't shut up to literally teach you how to do this. If you want to find that, go to sharissasosa.com/half present. In order to prepare for the book, I surveyed 51 high performers, founders, athletes, executives, people at the top of their game in like number one in sales companies, working parents, and asked them to send me their real questions about stress, presence, distractions, and like what is actually getting in the middle of you being extremely present. And so I answered every single question. And this video is for you because you probably have a lot of the same questions. I hope you enjoy. If you like this video, go ahead and like it on YouTube, subscribe if you want. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I would love to answer your question. And let's dive right in. I'm going to answer these questions anonymously, and I look forward to your feedback. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. I would love to support you further. You find me skipping around numbers, just go with it. So we're going to start with number 4. Number 4, what were your highlights? What was your number one takeaway? So I think this person is asking what's my number one takeaway from the mindfulness training that I've done in my practice over the last 10 years. And I would say my number one takeaway is realizing that this busy mind that I've lived with for so long, that is taking me to such dark places, that has taken me out of the present moment more times than I can count, I actually have control over that. And there's a way to actually overcome your thoughts. There's a way to completely unidentify with your thoughts. There's a way to completely take control over what goes on in your brain. And when you can't control it, when it's just too crazy and too busy and too distracting, there's a way where I can find a place to truly be okay with that, and find a place where I'm just kind of watching it all happen and being wow, that's busy mind today. So I would say my biggest takeaway is just being at peace with whatever state I'm in. And even emotionally, being at peace with when I'm upset, when I'm sad, when I'm angry, if I'm going through it. And just full acceptance. And it's not oh my God, I give up, I surrender this, I just accept it and I'm a victim. No, it's actually you become bigger than these limitations that your mind is in. I would say my highlights in my book, Half Present, that's, I don't know if I said this or not, but it's basically a training manual for a mind that won't shut up. Basically, one of my biggest highlights is a story that I tell in the book, of how reactive I used to be and how I am now. And for me, it's really seeing the difference between an untrained mind and a trained mind. There's definitely one moment where I talk about in the book where I was moving through a lot of anger, fierce anger. And my anger is very aggressive. My anger can be very aggressive, very the thoughts, the mental images, the desire to punch things or hit things, that is just comes naturally to me. And it's just is what it is. And there was a moment where, and this was after, some time with my training, where I was looking in this mirror and I wanted to punch the mirror so bad. The rage that was moving through my body was more than I had ever experienced in my entire life. This uncontrollable rage. I wanted to punch the mirror, and I went through my process. I talk about this in the book. I really observed myself. I observed my rage. I wasn't filled with rage. My system was filled with rage. right? Like in the book, I talk about your see, hear, feel system, like the system that just takes in the world was filled with rage, and I was able to observe that, and I didn't need to punch the mirror in order to feel fully expressed, in order to be like, okay, whew, I feel better now, because that wouldn't have made me feel better. Like reacting to your emotions and reacting to your thoughts, it never feels good. So there's so many highlights. I could go on and on with answering this, number 4. But yeah, my highlights are definitely like changing my relationship to the reactivity of my thoughts. Okay, number 5. I need help and ideas around creating time and space for more sacred ritual. I essentially have 45 minutes in the morning where I do breath work, pray, and journal or move my body. Plus, I always work out 45 days a week, but more so ideas of how I can create more space for ritual and creativity to strengthen my life and business. Well, that's beautiful. First of all, number 5, I just want to say that is amazing that you take 45 minutes in the morning to like attend to yourself in that way, because I know, like, I can imagine, I don't know from experience, I don't have kids, but working moms, that is an entirely, like, that's a whole different level of resilience and challenge and working around, and I know you're someone who really strives for excellence, and so you understand that taking this 45 minutes makes you better for everyone, your family and your business. So, the first thing I would say is read my book because my book is going to teach you a 10-second practice, like literally a 10-second practice that you can do anywhere, anytime. You can do it with your eyes open, your eyes closed. There's also something I talk about in the book called a background practice. And so without getting too much into the weeds, because I will break this down step by step in the book, I would recommend finding a practice like the one I have in my book or something else that works great for you that you can do while you're working, that you can do like while you're in traffic, while you're in the car, while you're getting the baby ready, while you're taking her a bath, like something while you're cooking, like something that you can weave into your day that doesn't take any extra time, because let's face it, like your days are full. And like, sure, you could wake up an extra 20 minutes earlier or something, but like, do you really want to? Like, is that really necessary for what everything else you're already doing? You already have your morning routine locked down, it sounds like. So if you can find a way to really ground during your day, right? You're talking about a ritual for creativity to strengthen your life and business. I mean, it all comes down to what your mental state is going to strengthen your life and business. So anything that really supports your state. So that could be, maybe it's creating a ritual around like taking intentional breaths, right, throughout the day, and like putting a reminder on your phone to like breathe intentionally. That could be something that could be really helpful for you. Maybe it's a timer where you put your timer on for 1 minute, and you have that reminder, a couple times a day, twice a day, every day. Try it out for a week, and see what shifts, see what happens. That could be really helpful for you. I had a thought I wanted to add in here for this question, because maybe in my answer I might have misunderstood the question, and it sounds like you're looking for more sacred ritual. And my question would be like, when you're cooking, when you're making coffee or tea, like when you're in those like mundane moments throughout your day, how can that be a sacred ritual? How can you create sacred ritual in those mundane moments? How can driving the car be a sacred ritual? How can making dinner like truly be like a sacred ritual? How can you create sacred ritual without taking extra time in your day? How can you make a meal like you're in a Zen monastery? Not because it's quiet in the house, but because of your posture, because of how you approach that moment, because of how you sip your coffee, because you're fully present with like your first sip, and that's a sacred ritual. And so maybe it's getting clear on what a sacred ritual is for you, but my challenge for you would be like, don't take extra time to do it. just create sacred ritual around the mundane that's already happening in your life. Because I think when you can meet the moment in that way, you see the divinity, and then you realize how sacred and precious those moments are when you can fully land in there with that posture, with that meeting, with that approach. I'm so grateful for everybody who did my survey. Oh my gosh. Because it just gave me direct feedback as to like what I need to put in my ebook to like literally solve people's problems and help them with this like nagging, constant, never ending like narration that happens in your brain. And when I first went into the book, I thought I was solving a different problem completely. But also it came like full circle back around to I love teaching people how to shut their brain off. I love teaching people how to turn the dial down, turn the volume down on their brain. And like you guys basically just gave me like everything I need to know to meet you where you're at. And I love you all for that. Thank you. Okay, what are your global beliefs around and relationship with time? Okay, number 6. I don't fully understand this question. What I will say, what are your global beliefs around? My global beliefs are, that's tricky. I'm not quite sure how to answer that, so I don't want to assume. If you want to message me or comment exactly what you mean by that. I'll just assume like this is not like a super mindfulness question. This is just like a personal question. My global beliefs are, I feel like I can kind of see everything from above. Like I can kind of see like why somebody would vote this way, why somebody would vote a completely opposite way. Like I can fully see like why somebody would be vegan and why somebody would be a carnivore. Like I can fully like see that. I can fully see like why somebody, would be like, we need more guns, and somebody would be like, oh my God, get all the guns out. Like I can fully see from above. It's kind of like if you look at a triangle, right? Like the political landscape is on the bottom, right? The voting, the yes or no, all of that is on the bottom. And I can kind of like look down on it and be like, yeah, I can totally see that. And it's not that I'm with it. It doesn't mean I'm like with it, but I really don't have any like strong global opinions. I'm kind of like, yeah, if that works for you, then do that, I don't know. My relationship with time, I used to think that I had to slow down in order to be more like calm and peaceful. And I realized that I don't. I just need to be more present to like really get all the benefits from slowing down, because let's face it, like you're a lot like me. Like I don't want to slow down. I like the pace of my life, that it just keeps going. I love that I have goals that just keep pushing me to do more and be more and expand. And I'm not really interested in like stopping that. However, like I love being off the grid. I love going camping and being like, I'll see you when I see you, I love my alone time. I love being on Do Not Disturb. I love not just pouring my time out to anybody who asks. In this very strict deadline with my book, I have said no just this week to like 5 people who either wanted my time of like investing, or like investing my time into something, or something that had nothing to do with what I'm on track for. And I just had to say no to that. Like a lot of my hangouts right now are like, let's co-work together, right? And if there's something that's in my schedule right now, it's because I planned it 2 months ago. If there's something like fun and chill and enjoy, like I planned that already. Also, this morning I just got into puzzles, and I literally just broke out a puzzle yesterday because I've been thinking like, I really want to do a puzzle. Yo, this puzzle is mad hard. Like it is insane, and it's way bigger. It's 1,000 pieces, which I don't know anything about puzzles. I just thought like, oh, 1,000 pieces sounds good. this morning, I have like a list a mile high with getting this ebook out on time and everything that comes after that to just happen in a flow, right? Like I'm setting everything up right now and it's way more work than I thought it would be, but I'm so happy to do it. And it's so tempting to like do your little morning routine and then jump right into your laptop. And like for me, my minimum in the morning is a little bit of movement, prayer, and meditation. That's my like absolute minimum. Um, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to work on my puzzle for like 15 or 20 minutes before I jump into my laptop. And so that's kind of my global beliefs around time, or that's kind of my beliefs around time is like, you need to, your life is made up of all these little moments. Your day is made up of all these little moments. And if you're not filling those, like, if you're not filling your day and filling your life with moments that bring you joy, that are exciting, that's something that has nothing to do with work, then, like, that's how you're living your life. And you only get one life. Nobody can tell you for certain what happens after this life. Like, filling your day, sprinkling your day, even if it's 10 minutes, with something that nurtures your soul, for me, non negotiable, there's always time for that. I hope that answers your question. Here's the other thing I wanted to say about time. One thing my mentor said is he's like, you can't like expand time, but you can expand your moments when you're present. If you have a strategy that can get you there fully without being distracted by your own mind, like completely merged with the moment, like fully experiencing ice cream, like an ice cream, like a bite of a burger, like fully experiencing making love with your lover, like if you can like fully meet that moment, you are expanding your moments by expanding your awareness, by expanding your presence. You're kind of like expanding time. So that's just kind of like my last thought on time. Okay, number 7. How to quiet your mind without losing your edge. Oh my gosh, this is literally what my book is about. I almost like titled it like literally that. I don't want to become passive, but would appreciate more clarity and intensity. Dialing in my intentionality. What's the fastest way to reset your nervous system in the middle of high stakes moments like a pitch that didn't go well, conflict, or competition without stepping away for 20 minutes? Thank you, number 7. Oh my gosh. I love this because this is literally what my book is about. I'm sorry I'm not sorry actually that I keep bringing it up, but like most of these questions are just pointing back to the whole reason for this book. But to answer your question here, by the way, like this book will answer this question for you in real time. Like in real time, you'll read this book and be like, oh, got it. You'll practice it for a week and be like, oh my gosh, I realize I don't need to time block a whole new thing. So to answer your question for now, before reading the book, what I will say, how do you quiet your mind without losing your edge? One thing you can do if you're like, like a pitch didn't go well, you're in conflict, is let's say you're like driving. My biggest thing is in order to, like, you don't have to have a whole new habit or a whole new practice or like wake up an extra hour earlier to get here, like to quiet your mind without losing your edge, to reset your nervous system. And by the way, I think a lot of us, this isn't just you, number 7, this is like a thing. I think we're a little bit too obsessed with like upsetting our nervous system. And I think we're a little bit too like not okay with a nervous system that's a little bit wired up. And I think we need to learn how to be with that, because if you're constantly regulating yourself, like red flag, that is not how I want to live. I want to be able to know that like I can notice when I'm triggered. I can notice when my nervous system is going crazy. I can notice when there's like some kind of like reactivity that's kind of coming out of me, when it's kind of like coming out of your fingertips and you're like, check my email, check my phone, check my Instagram, right? And instead of reacting, instead of letting your nervous system like tell you what to do and letting your nervous system tell you how to operate, you have a stillness about you that can observe and watch your nervous system act out and unfold, that can watch your mind chatter incessantly. And you can find a way to be okay with that. You can find a way to be with that instead of letting it just take you. So my book teaches you how to do this. For now, I would say you can put your attention on your body. Like that can be very grounding. And you're not losing your edge, you're just present. I think a lot of people have a misconception with like mindfulness and like being soft. And it's like, no. Mindfulness gets you sharper, quicker, faster, more aware, more mentally clear. And when you're more mentally clear, you know what the fuck to do. You know how to handle situations. You know how to not react. You know how to not blast off that text. You know how to respond to a customer who's just being an asshole. Like, you know how to handle hard moments when you have a stillness about you that's observing the chaos that's happening inside of you at the same time. So I would love to see what you think about this book because it does handle this question. You don't need 20 minutes. You only need 10 seconds. 10 seconds. And so you can download my ebook for that right now. Okay, number 8. Favorite way to de-stress in a high-pressure situation and how to protect from anger in tense negotiations. It's interesting, right? Because when you're in a high-pressure situation, there's so much going on that it can be a bit difficult to notice your own reactions kind of bubbling up. And I know you, number 8, like you have a lot of self-control. You're very disciplined. You're very aware of yourself. So I'm not saying this assuming that, like, I don't assume that you just tell people off in a high stakes situation. Like, that's not where I'm going with this. But because you mentioned protecting from anger, what I'm hearing, and tell me if I'm wrong in the comments, because in the comments, other people can help. It can help them like understand, I don't know. I think my opinion might be a little bit different than maybe what you're looking for, to be totally honest, because I think that anger can be a signal to like, okay, there's been a line crossed, right? There's been a line crossed. And so I think the mental clarity around that can be noticing in a high stakes negotiation, okay, this person like just thinks they can get away with this, or whatever that story is in your mind that is related to the anger that you feel you need to protect yourself from. I think it's less about protecting yourself from the anger and more about noticing the anger when it comes up and noticing like what it's signaling to you. And then you have a lot of awareness to where you can say like, okay, what's the best way to communicate that doesn't work? What's the most professional way? I know this is like a question like specifically for work. What's the most professional way to say like, no, bro, like fucking check yourself, right? Like what's the most professional way to communicate that? And you are like an expert communicator. So I would say my favorite way to de-stress would be what I teach in the book. It's a technique called feel rest. And for the sake of answering your question in this video before you jump into my book, you can notice, and I go very deep in this in the book, but you can find rest and you can create rest. And you can do this in the book. I talk about how to do this like in real time, like in the background during a Zoom meeting, like during a negotiation, like while your kid is having a meltdown, like in these like very tense moments. There's a way that you can do it in the background while like 20% of your attention is on doing the practice and 80% is on like right now, like I'm just going to do it right now, like while we talk and while I'm doing this. And 20% of my attention is on the stillness of my legs. And 80% of my attention is on communicating with you. And you can do this in a way to where, and this is a practice, it's a training, right? In the book, I give you a way on how to really train your brain to be able to like switch it off. So you're switching off the story of the anger and you're like actually here, right? You're here in the moment, hyperly present. And initially, when you first practice this, the dial's going to turn down a little bit. You might not even notice it initially when you first start practicing this. It's so common because for a lot of us, our system is so used to being wired up. It's not like our palate isn't familiar with rest for the most part. I mean, I love me some rest. So my palate definitely knows rest. And I've been practicing this technique for so many years that like my system knows like, okay, rest, right? And rest doesn't mean like, rest just means my reactivity is not going to take over right now. And I'm commanding myself to be right here. So that's what this technique is about. So I know I'm kind of going all over the place. You can bring your attention to the stillness of your body. Whatever is still, whatever is not active, which basically means whatever is not like moving, like my hands are moving, that's not restful, but my legs are staying the same, that's restful. This hand right here is not moving, that's restful. And I can fully absorb it, I can fully listen to what the client is telling me, even though I don't like what they're saying. 20% of my attention is grounded here in myself, not in the reactivity, not in the anger, but just in real life, like in this without the story. And 80% of my attention is, and you can try this right now while I'm talking or while you're listening to the rest of the video if you want to listen to the rest of the video. So that would be the first thing I would say. And then there's other really common things you can do. There's another side, another wing of feel rest where you relax your shoulders and you relax your muscles, and that can be restful. And so it's about noticing this gap between active and restful. So if you can start practicing noticing this gap, noticing this switch, noticing when you can command your mind to be active versus restful, that is going to train your brain to de-stress in high pressure situations. And the more that you practice this, again, it goes back to like set a timer for yourself twice a day to notice between active and restful. And reading the book will give you a very like in-depth view of what that means. For the sake of brevity for this video, try that 80-20 background practice with the stillness. Try it in the next time, you're feeling tense, and see what that's like for you. And I would love for you to report back and like see if you want to, and maybe in the comments or to me, and see what that's like. Thank you, number 8. Number 9. You talk about how your book with a guide and strategy step by step to take control over the mind. My question would be, 1, how do you immediately get yourself in low stress, clear mindset after a stressful situation? And number 2, how can I practice mental clarity? Okay, number 9, I feel like I answered this in number 8's question. So my answer would be, listen to the answer that I just replied to. I would give you the same exact recipe for that. Number 10, when you recognize that you are in a negative mental state, what are the quickest and most effective ways out of it? Based in neuroscience, what are the benefits to mindfulness? Okay. When you recognize you're in a negative mental state, what are the quickest, most effective ways out of it? I just want to close my eyes to like really hear this question and think back to like what I do step by step when I find myself there. So the first step is always going to be notice. Because when you're unconsciously doing this, that's when it feels like you attacking yourself. Oh my God, I recently went through like a very intense shame spiral. I just felt like a piece of shit. I was like, I'm terrible. What I did was terrible. Oh my God, I hurt people. Like, I just felt like shit. And I knew, and with practice, right, when you start to practice observing yourself. Now, observing yourself isn't the whole answer, because you could observe yourself and know that you're beating yourself up without actually changing it or supporting yourself or nurturing that part in some way. There's a very brief practice that I'm going to give you, and you can do this mentally as like a mental reflection while you're doing the dishes, while you're walking. You can do this like sitting down in meditation. But there's a practice called RAIN, RAIN, like Nancy is the acronym. And I love this when I am kind of beating myself up and like turning on myself. This is my assumption with the question. I could be wrong. A negative mental state could mean so many things. Let me explain RAIN really quick, and then I'll address maybe the other side of a negative mental state that you could be referring to. RAIN is first recognize. So it always starts with noticing. Because when you're like deeply noticing, when you're like, and it doesn't mean you have to like sit in lotus position and notice, like with your eyes closed and like lighting incense. That's not what I mean. Like what I just mean is just like pausing. Just like, let me just stop and like notice this negative mental state. Okay. Notice the thinking, recognize, notice like what are the actual thoughts, and don't be scared to think them. They're just thoughts. Don't be scared to think them. They're just thoughts. And the more that you kind of like let them breathe, the less fierce that attack is, because you're not avoiding it. You're not pushing it away. As we know, what we resist persists, right? Same thing with our thoughts. But a lot of times we don't really think about it that way. We don't give our negative thoughts a chance to breathe, because we're like, why would we want to be negative? You're not. You're like letting it out. You're like letting it express. You're giving it space. So letting those thoughts breathe, noticing the emotional impact of those thoughts, like noticing what you're feeling. And I'm not necessarily going towards like notice like sad or angry or mad or resentful or whatever. It's more so like notice the sensory experience. Notice the heat or the tightness or what that's like for you when you're in that negative mental state. What is that like for me? And then A is allow. So if R is reflect, A is allowing. So I kind of jumped the gun a little bit, but you're allowing it to express itself. You're accepting that like this is just what's here right now. It's not forever, but I'm allowing this right now. I accept that this is here now. Investigate. I is for investigate. Investigate is where you ask a question. What is this part needing most right now? What does this part need to remember? This part that's mad at me, this part that's mad at them, this part that is frustrated. What does it need most right now? And sometimes you can ask that question and not know. Sometimes you can ask the question and the answer comes right away. But investigate is about inquiring. Investigate is about like meeting that emotion, meeting that negative thought, and being like, what are you trying to say right now? Like, what are you really trying to say? Right? Not on the surface, what are you trying to say? Like, really read between the lines. And then N, my favorite part, is nurture. N is for nurture, taking care of yourself. Sometimes it's as simple as putting your hand on your heart, saying, it's okay, sweetheart. It's okay. Like, I know you're hurting. I know you're hurting. It's okay. And just that act can be so powerful. Because a lot of times I know in my own journey, I want people to validate me. I want people to understand me. I want people to know this is not okay. I want people to know I have fears and I have doubts and it's hard in here. But when I find myself craving that, it's really a craving that I need to meet myself. So rain is a way of meeting yourself. And if you want like the fast pass of rain for me is noticing like, oh, what's it like in here? And then quick to what do I need to remember most right now? And just accepting that like this is what's here right now. This is the life inside of me right now. This is the life that's inside of me right now. Like I can be with this. I can handle this. I can be with it. And I know you can too. So in neuroscience, the benefits to mindfulness, I'm actually just going to like read something straight from my book for you. And really, you guys, a lot of the answer to these questions are like really come down to like, you don't really have a problem with all of these things. You have like a noise problem, right? You have like, it's your brain, like just kind of forcing you to focus on this thing. But the core self of you, the core wise self knows that there is a better way. And so that's what I talk about in my book. That's what I teach you, how to find that better way in 10 seconds or more, like in very little time. Let's talk about neuroplasticity for a bit. I'll just read this directly from my book. Research out of Harvard shows that even brief, consistent mindfulness practice produces measurable changes in the brain structure, specifically in the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, in as little as 8 weeks. But here's what's even more interesting. The research on micro practices, which my book is all about micro practices, because I know you ain't got time and I know I ain't got time. The research on micro practices shows that short, frequent, high-quality bursts of focused attention are more effective at building new neural pathways than longer sessions with scattered attention. Your brain doesn't care how long you practice, it cares that you focus when you do, and your brain responds to repetition. So my book is all about repeating these micro practices so that you actually get like a direct result and like a real change like fast. I'm going to find another study to tell you about in this video, and you'll see the rest of them in the book. I think there's only like 4 or 5. I actually took out a bunch of them because my book editor said that it was like way too, it was getting like way too like sciencey, and I'm like, you're right. They only need like a few little data points, to like really get it. Studies on consistent mindfulness practice, even in short doses, show measurable changes in how the brain handles stress, distraction, and emotional reactivity over time. Here's what the research actually points to. The prefrontal cortex gets thicker. Literally. A landmark Harvard study found increased gray matter density in the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for focus and decision making, after just 8 weeks of consistent practice. Your ability to direct attention, to choose where your mind goes instead of being dragged, gets structurally stronger. This is what I know I was put on the planet to freaking help people with, and it makes me so happy that there is like hard data to back that up. That's what this book is going to help you do. And it's going to be a night and day difference from like who you were before this book and who you were after. The amygdala shrinks. The alarm center of your brain physically reduces in size with consistent practice. Stanford researchers documented reduced amygdala volume and reactivity in practitioners, meaning less reactive, less hair trigger, less of that emotion to reaction pipeline that's been running your life before you even get a chance to respond, before you even get a chance to like be like, hey, I don't want that. You actually get the space to respond. Ooh, let me share this last one. Okay, I need to check myself, like, don't freaking read them the whole chapter, but I think you'll really like this. The default mode network quiets down. Studies show that trained practitioners display significantly reduced DMN activity, DMN, which is default mode network, which is like your reactivity, your defaults. The constant background noise, mental chatter, the looping becomes less dominant, not gone, just no longer in charge. Kind of like I mentioned earlier in the video where, I can still notice my brain being when it's very active, but it's not like running me. Cortisol drops. A meta-analysis of 45 studies found that consistent mindfulness-based practice measurably reduced cortisol, your primary stress hormone, across a wide range of populations. Okay, I'm going to stop there because I could literally keep reading this all day. I hope that answers your question number 10. Thank you so much for your question. Number 11. What's a simple tactic or technique to ground yourself in the moment and refocus when the mind is chaotic? What breathing exercise do you recommend throughout the day to recharge and focus? Now, I'll start with, I think breathing exercises are great. The only challenge is you have to stop everything to do them, especially for the most effective ones, right? Kind of. There's ones you can do throughout your day, and I'll tell you a little bit about the ones that I like to do throughout my day. There's also ones that you can do to stop and do them for 10 minutes, and for me, that's just not really practical for my life to always have to do that to regulate, right? And you already heard my 2 cents on this obsession we have with constantly needing to be regulated. Learn how to be with it, dude. Not you, dude, but yeah. A simple tactic would be first notice, really observe. And you're going to find this as a consistent, for whoever's watching the entire video, you're going to find this as a consistent theme throughout a lot of these questions are first notice. Because if we're unconscious to what's happening, then it's literally leading us without even a chance for us to be no, I don't want to be led that way. But when you can practice noticing, in my book, there's 3 steps: notice, label, and rest, that totally answer this question for you. And to give you the quick cliff notes from the book, and the book really breaks down strategically, step by step, how to do this. But the first would be labeling. The first would be noticing. Noticing, what's it like in here? Right? You're in a stressful, chaotic moment. What's it like in here? The mind is very active. In the book, I talk about these categories of your inner experience, which is see, hear, feel, which are the categories of how we experience life through our 3 senses. And there's an inner and outer experience of all those 3 senses. I'm not going to get into that right now, but you can find it in my book. And you can notice when things are chaotic, there's usually 2 or 3 sensory experiences being tangled at the same time. For most people, it's hear in, which is your thinking sensory experience, hearing in, and feeling in. So it's usually the thinking activity and the feeling activity happening at the same time. And what happens is they're tangled. That's why it feels so almost impossible sometimes to watch a sunset when you're stressed out about your family or a work conflict or, something like that. But when you can notice, when you can separate these 2 sensory activities and kind of divide and conquer, right? Notice them separately. You have way more control and you have way more mental clarity. And because you're actually taking a step back to watch it happen versus it's just happening to you. And sometimes it can feel like the mind just attacking itself, and you're bro, why are you coming for me? I didn't do anything to you, So this is how you take control back and refocus when the mind is chaotic. First is notice, and then you want to label, and I go over this in the book, but labeling okay, mental activity here, feel. And just kind of taking a step back to objectively notice. The act of noticing is taking a 1 degree of separation between you and the thought, between you and the feeling, between you and the chaos. And that 1 degree of separation sometimes is all you need to be oh, that's not me. but I can watch it happen. And when you can identify, like, that's not me, I'm watching it happen, you're like, oh, I'm noticing this. And it just turns the volume down slightly. And then when you can add a practice to that like helps regulate you, which is the feel rest technique I talk about in the book, which is I teach you how to find rest and create rest. And I talk a little bit about that in when I answer number 8's question. So if you want to look in the description, I I I have a timestamp to all these questions, so you can go back to that to hear the cliff notes of the technique. And you can read my book if you really want to dial this in and have this strategy for life. I think the book will probably only take like an hour to read, but it'll give you skills for a lifetime. So go back to the timestamp for number 8, and that'll help you refocus. And remember, noticing is half the battle. Like being able to objectively be like, let me just look at this. Like, what's it like in here? Okay, breathing exercise. I'm going to give you the one that I like to do every now and then if I'm like super triggered or I'm just like, I just need one extra thing, right? I've done my mindfulness practice and it's like, I just need like the little cherry on top. And I don't know what this breath technique is called. I'll probably find it by the time I post this video, but it's essentially you're breathing in and then you're breathing out through your teeth. And that has like a brain switch that it does for you and like resolving some pent up tightness around stress and anxiousness and chaos. So here's what that looks like. Now you don't have to do it. Oof. That felt really good. Okay, maybe join me. I'm going to do it again. You don't have to do it as exaggerated as I am. I'm just showing you like what my teeth look like when you do that, right? Your teeth are together and you're breathing through your teeth. You're like, some people say it's like you're breathing like a snake. So that can be really helpful when you're driving and maybe you're going through something in life or, you're resolving a conflict internally or something like that. So another thing you can do, that feels so nice, you guys. Another thing you can do is there is a feel rest practice that I talk about in the book. I'll give you like the cliff notes right now, but again, my book will like really get you in there. This isn't a breathing technique, but it's bringing awareness to the breath in a strategic way that activates a restful state. And I just want to emphasize, even if you notice the tiniest sliver of a restful state, that is restful. And I also want to remind you, if you don't notice the restful state, it's probably still happening without you even noticing it, because a lot of us, you probably too, are just so wired. Our palate isn't like accustomed to a restful state. So we're like, what? We don't even recognize it, right? But the practice of this, the micro practice over time, that will start to be your default, is getting into a restful state and commanding your mind to get restful on a dime when you decide in the moments that matter most. So what that looks like is just right now, without even changing your breath, notice the exhale and bring all of your attention to that exhale. And you know what? I kind of wish I would have plugged this in to number 8's answer too. So number 8, this is also for you. Tracking your exhale down. So bringing all of your attention to your exhale. And notice that you can do this like for me, I just saw my puzzle. While you're doing a puzzle, you could do this like while you're at your laptop. Just tracking your exhale. Just doing it in the background while you're working. Bringing all of your attention to watching that exhale happen all the way down to the bottom. And noticing that can activate the tiniest restful state or the biggest restful state. It's all about just getting your system familiar with it until it starts to become like the saving grace, because for me, it really has. And it wasn't initially. Initially, I was like, I barely feel that. But yeah, initially it was like, is it in? you know? But over time, you start to realize, like, wow, this is actually a really powerful practice. So you can do that and put a reminder in your phone, to track your exhale 3 times a day. Put a reminder in your phone. And then over the course of 40 days or even a week, you'll start to notice the difference of like letting that expand, because it can. Okay. Number 11, I had a last thought for you that I had to plug in here. Have you ever heard of one thing you can do? Like, let's say you're at the booth, right? And you're like, you want to do a breathing practice, but you don't want to like step away. One thing you can do, and I think you already know this, but it's also like so helpful to remember sometimes, is when you take like long inhales and long exhales, you want your exhale to be longer than your inhale. So you can count for 5 in, like we can do it together really quick. Count in for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out for 6. 3, 4, 5, 6. And you can continue to like expand that and like make those breaths longer, right? And you can like totally do that like privately, and it doesn't have to be like make a big scene. Okay, have you ever heard of Ujjayi breath? This is basically like, it's kind of like, when you're like fogging a mirror and you're like, it's like that, but your mouth is closed. And you can do this like also like privately by yourself. You can like, you can do this while you're driving. You can do this in life or whatever. And basically it's like audible, like you can hear it. Like I'm going to make it audible for you, but you can make it as loud or quiet as you want. I guess it does matter when you're like in yoga, but if you're doing it in life just to kind of like reset, this is what it sounds like. So it's kind of like you're like fogging up a window, but your mouth is closed. So look up Ujjayi breath if you need more like details on that. The other thing I like to do, if it's just like a lot, I'll literally breathe in. And I'll do that, and that feels so good. That like literally feels so good. Let's do it together. That's like so pleasant. Oh my gosh. The other one that is just so simple and basic, and this is also nice to do in the car, like obviously if your environment allows for it, is just like a very like just like letting it out. So it's not like a very technical term, but it's like this. Relaxing the jaw all the way out. I'm just doing that like 3 times or even once is just like so nice. So, okay, I just wanted to add that in. Number 12. What do you do to zone everything out and focus on the task at hand? How do you shut off your brain to go to sleep? So, how do I zone out? What did you zone out? Okay. So, lately this has been pretty easy for me, but it used to not be. I was drinking the ADHD Kool-Aid. Sorry if anybody's offended by that. Everybody can focus. Everybody can focus. And one thing that worked really well for me while I was training my attention, it all comes down to just training. Just like you can train a dog, right? You can train a wild dog to act right if you're committed to the training. But what does a dog need in order to actually be successful at that training? Repetition. I remember when I had my dog Duke, my little baby, rest in peace, baby. When I got him, he was chaotic. He had no social skills. Thought everybody was a threat. He thought every dog he would like yell and scream and bark at all the dogs because he had no like social skills. And everything was training. at every moment, we're at a stoplight, we're walking, everything, every moment was training. So there's a couple layers to answering this question. The first one is read my book and remember that every moment in your life, this is a training to focus and to be right here. Something that worked really well for me, like if I know that I'm kind of in a scattered state a little bit more or having a hard time focusing, I'll do something called bookending, which I really train more. I'm going to train this a lot more in my group program coming up. But bookending is basically like having a practice you can do before you have that task and after you have that task. So one of the things I loved doing, and this is actually a technique that I taught people on how to like overcome procrastination, is what I would do before I open my laptop. You can do this for 10 seconds. Okay, all my practices are all about like brevity and efficiency. Like, what's the most effective way I can do this in like almost no time? So what I would do if I were you, if you're having a hard time focusing, before you open your laptop, before you do that thing, close your eyes for like 10 seconds and just watch yourself in your mind, like play the movie of you doing that thing. And then feel the emotions of like whatever comes to you, like whatever pride or like how proud you are that you did that. And maybe there's an affirmation. Like I know my affirmation was like, I can trust myself. Because following through really just comes down to self-trust. And so does focus. Like lack of, like, I think they're really intertwined, like lack of focus and lack of self-trust. Because if I trust myself to do that thing, I trust that I'm going to figure out how to get around all my limitations around doing that thing. Maybe that's learning a new mindfulness technique. Maybe that's turning off my phone. Maybe that's being on Do Not Disturb all day. Whatever that is. Creating boundaries, right? If I have self-trust, then I trust myself to work around my limitations. So going back to the practice, watch yourself doing that thing and then feel the feelings that you feel like after you've done that thing. I know for me, it was like, I feel so proud. I feel like I can trust myself. And I was testing out some of these mantras or whatever. And I was like, okay, my first one was like, I trust myself. But that didn't resonate because I did not trust myself at the time. But I can trust myself totally resonated. Like I can trust myself, and it feels so good to trust myself. So a lot of discipline and a lot of like zoning everything out and just doing it, a lot of like the no excuses thing is really about self-trust. So that's what I would focus on. How do you shut off your brain to go to sleep? I would go back to my answer to number 8. You can look in the comment section of the timestamps, and there's like a little bit of a restful. What you can do also is just landing in the bed, right? Just like letting yourself really land there. And what that could look like for you is noticing when your mind is kind of like planning the next day or reviewing the day before, beating you up for whatever you did or didn't do, how you're behind. And, I know how the mind works. I've got one too. And just noticing that and relaxing, like demanding yourself to relax. Actually want to rephrase that, not demanding, commanding yourself to relax. And what that could look like is taking deep breaths while you go to bed. It could also look like finding you could chat GPT like hey, I'm having a hard time going to sleep. Give me the best sounds for sleeping, and you can test out different sounds. Like I know for me, I had a phase where it was like white noise, and then I had a phase where it was like brown noise, and now I really like binaural beats, and I'll put a timer on for an hour, and I'll sleep to that, and that feels really good. I don't really have a hard time with like mental busyness before bed, unless I'm like having a little bit of mania, and I'm just like, work, this is so fun. But that's what I would recommend, and definitely review my answer to number 8. You can look in the description for the timestamp for that, and that'll give you a little strategy that you can rest. And then also, I would also look at my answer to number 11, which was right before this, to like wind down your brain. This is so fun. Okay. How do you balance working on your goals and being focused on progress, but also present and enjoying the journey? Number 2, how does that change when you are in your shit? Okay, so, and in a lot of this description too, this person, number 13, is talking about like self-sabotage and stuff like that. So how do you balance working on your goals and being focused on progress, but also present and enjoying the journey? I have one phrase to answer this question. And when I heard this phrase, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, oh, okay. The journey is the destination. The journey is the destination. Period. That's how I enjoy it while I still pursue more. Number 2, how does that change when you're in your shit? I think I've really kind of like unwinded this habit in a really big way. I don't think I really struggle with that. I think I maybe hesitated there because if I'm in my shit, for me, sometimes that looks like emotionally being like emotionally overwhelmed, and I still have to like handle my life and like go get my goals and like go sell or whatever. So what that looks like for me is like if I'm in an emotional storm, I have practiced, again, it comes down to noticing, everybody, if you haven't noticed yet. I can observe the fact that I feel sad or I feel disappointed or I'm triggered about this thing or this person or this life situation. I can notice that in the background, right? Kind of like this other background practice I've been talking about. 20% of my attention can be on that, and 80% can be on what I actually need to do to like be here for my life, to be here for myself. And it's also about negotiating with your priorities. Like, what's the priority right now? Negotiating with your priorities and just making a decision, like what is going to help you focus on that priority. Because sometimes work is not going to slow down for you. Sometimes the world is not going to slow down for you so you can get your shit together. Like, the world is never actually going to stop and slow down for you so you can get your shit together so that you can be in your life. So you need to learn how to accept the struggle that's at hand, accept the fact that it's hard without attaching yourself to it, without becoming it, but noticing that it's hard, noticing that you're stuck on it, noticing that you're caught. Notice that you're caught and have a core, bigger version of you that knows exactly what to do to get the job done while you're still honoring what you feel. You're not overriding your emotions. You're allowing two things to be true. You're allowing it to be true that this is really hard, and you're allowing it to be true that it's time to work. It's time to get shit done. It's time to go to the grocery store and get groceries for the week. It's time to do it. Like, it's just time. And it's always your time. It's always your turn. It's always your turn. 14. Your go-to ways or tools that you use for scheduling and organizing your life and schedule. Your go-to ways or tools for mine is pretty simple. I mean, right now I'm going through a launch, so my to-do list is longer than it's ever been in my life. And I'm currently finding ways to systematize that, like in an actual system, in my CRM, in my GHL, Go High Level. So that's like on the business side of things. I'm trying to organize my to-do list in like a flow and like a campaign and like a really easy way to look at it and just say, okay, next. And I would say at the simplest level, just putting things in my calendar, because if it's in my calendar, it'll happen. That feels like a really simplistic answer, but that's the only way I'm kind of understanding this question. Let me read it again. Your go-to ways or tools. And also, I just put a lot of joy into my life. I know that I love camping. I put that in my life. I know that my new thing is puzzle, like doing this puzzle. And I'm going to do that a little bit every morning, probably, maybe even if it's like 5 minutes. I'm going to get some sunshine if I can. Like, you know, I think to best answer this question, my answer would be knowing what your priorities are, knowing your non-negotiables, making a list of that in the beginning of the week, what your non-negotiables are for the week. If you're a monthly planner, knowing your non-negotiables for the month, and like no matter what, those non-negotiables are not negotiable. Right? Another thing I like to do with my to-do list is I'll make a to-do list. After I make the to-do list, I just brain dump everything I need to do, whether it's for the day or for the week. And then I will label it like I will put like a letter next to it in the order of priority, A, B, or C. A is like this has to get done first. And there's a lot of first, right? But A is like this is first. B is like this can wait. And C is like I can do this like after all of these A and B things. That has really helped me because I know how easy it is to do like the busy work first, right? To do like the non-needle moving things. So I like that system. Let me know if that answers your question. Number 14. Number 15. Topics. Retention of information and actualization ratio and finding equilibrium in life, not sprinting, not crawling, but flow. So I want to answer the first question because I remember like when I saw this, I was like, oh, I got it. And I want to know, number 15, if this works for you, let me know because it has worked for me. I've always thought I had a bad memory. And then I started meditating and literally my memory got stronger and I was only meditating like 10 minutes a day. But that's over the course of years. So this isn't really going to answer your question today. But to answer your question today, I started this thing and it works almost like every single time. And it's basically like if there's something I want to remember, I imagine my mind is like, you remember those like cubbies in school where there's like, or you can think of it like a letter thing where there's like cubbies and there's like little boxes, right? I imagine that information that I'm like plugging it into a cubby in my brain. Like I imagine like there's like a physical representation of like, okay, I'm like plugging that into one of the cubbies and I remember the details of it. Another thing that helps me, and I don't think this is relatable, but I'm just going to answer this from me, is I'm fluent in sign language. And so if I want help like remembering numbers or how to spell something, I'll just like sign it. And that really helps me remember. So if you can have like a vision of it, like a picture of it in your mind, or finding a way to use your hands or create it like, creating with it, that can help you remember things. And then the last part of the question, finding equilibrium in life, not sprinting, not crawling, but flow. I would say like, make sure you have joy in your life. Like if something brings you joy, make that a priority. And it doesn't mean you have to do it for an hour a day, but it means that you're making the space to fill your cup. I know everybody's like, fill your cup, but like really, like, if going in the water fills your cup, like go to the beach, like go do that thing. If hanging out with your boys like fills your cup, like is that in your schedule? Like freaking do it. Make it a priority, right? So I would say, because my impression of you, number 15, is that you are a go freaking getter and you are like, I will be successful at this, whatever it takes. And like this vision that I have, I know it's huge and most people think it's crazy, but it's going to happen and that's my life. And like, there's no negotiating with that, right? Okay, what if you had that same way of thinking and being and embodiment for what brings you joy and like what genuinely makes you happy? Like, think about maybe when you were a little boy and like what brought you joy and made you happy, or a teenager, and like what does that look like today? And is that in your calendar? Like, are you prioritizing that? So I would challenge you with that. And I think the more that, because like I understand this sort of, high achiever personality trait of like go, 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 when you are fitting joy and play and fun into your life, and maybe you're hearing this and you're like, yeah, I already do that, but like, are you really, I think that would bring like way more flow, because I think you're already getting after it. That's just my assumption based on the little that I know about you. But just like relaxing around it, like business is gonna go, but like, can you like enjoy and like relax around it? I'm not asking you to slow it down. I'm not asking you to slow business down. If anything, more joy and more relaxing around it is going to just like make that way more successful, because of the light that you bring to it, because you are like fueling that light with your joy. Number 16, what mental model do you step into for your biggest goals? What mental model do you step into your biggest goals with? Is there one, or is it just consistent mindset of the little actions that lead to the goal? So I'm actually going to share with you my 7-step formula to a breakthrough. I shared this with our sales team, and I got really great feedback. That was like one of the best talks I ever gave. So if you want me to send that to you, like, I'm totally more than happy to, but I'll break it down for you really quick. I'll give you the cliff notes. This is my mental model. This is my like 7 steps to a breakthrough. And if you're in sales, this is a game changer. If you hit all 7 steps, it works. You will have a breakthrough. It just happens. It's like magic. So the first one is belief. Getting really honest about your belief. Like, do you believe you can do it? Number 2 is decide. Like, firmly making a decision that you are going to go all in, and getting clear on what all in means for you. What are your boundaries? What are you willing to do and not willing to do? Number 3, know your stats, right? Pretty simple. Know your stats now and do the math of like, okay, what does it take based on your stats? What does it take to hit that goal, that breakthrough goal? And by the way, these 7 steps are really only for like if you're trying to create a breakthrough, not if you're just trying to hit like a regular goal that you like know you can hit, right? Number 4, what tools or skills do you need to add to your arsenal? This could be like a system. It could also be like learning a new skill or like strengthening a skill. So think about your sales process. What skill do you need to strengthen? I keep wanting to say strategy. What systems do you need to support you? Number 5, what support do you need? For me, I lean on people. What people do I need in order to vent to when it gets hard, to celebrate me when I have a win? Number 6, what are you adding or subtracting? You must add and subtract something in order to strengthen your will, because your will is going to fuel your desire. Like, your will is going to strengthening your will is like strengthening your discipline, right? So anytime I'm getting after a big goal, I usually I'll be aware of my habits and kind of remove one habit for like 30 or 40 days, and I'll add in a new one for 30 or 40 days. So a lot of these 7 steps work for like a 30-day, 40-day sprint for a breakthrough, if you want to have a breakthrough in like 30, 40 days. Number 7, surrender. Surrender. One of my prayers is like, fuck my plan, God. It's okay. God knows I cuss. God made me. We're good with that. But like, fuck my plan. I want your plan. I want your plan. Show me your plan. Like, fuck my plan. The thing is if you did 1 through 6, you did everything you need to do. The rest is out of your hands. And so it's about like leaning into that and accepting that. It doesn't mean you're like, okay, I'm just waiting for it. No, you're creating the right environment for it to land for you, right? You're asking the right questions to your prospect. You're like committed to the closing process. And then you're letting what's meant to happen happen. And you're awake and available to the best possible result. So that's my 7 steps to a breakthrough. Thank you for your question. Number 18, how can I notice and what technique can I use to quickly shift my state and stay shifted? How can I keep my vibes super high all the time? So, to answer your first part of the question, 18, I would go to number 8 to look at the timestamp for the question I answered at number 8, and that will tell you a little bit about the technique you can use to quickly shift your state. And if you want to go a lot deeper, my book will do that for you. So make sure you read my book, Half Present. It will show you the step-by-step strategy on how to lock in at any moment with like literally taking like almost 0 extra time, like 10 seconds to lock in and shift your state. How can you keep your vibe super high all the time? If you can figure that out, let me know. All the time? Yeah. I think as a collective, we need to understand that like we need to have like healthy expectations for ourselves and realize that like because we're human, there's always going to be up and down. Because we're human, there's going to be emotions. Because we're human, there's going to be distractions, and we just need to accept that ebb and flow between super high vibes and like super low vibes, and learn how to be with those moments when they come up, and learn how to still operate from this core wise self when we are feeling less than super high vibes. But if you want like a little morning practice, like a little 10-second morning practice to feel high vibes in the morning and let that carry through your day, and you can sprinkle this 10-second practice I'm about to show you throughout your day. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Put a little reminder on your phone 3 times a day. Try that for a week. If you like that, try it for 30 days, 40 days. Just a 10-second practice, literally. So in this 10-second practice, you're going to think about somebody you love. Somebody you love with like, it's like not a complicated relationship, right? And this could be your kids. So you can think about your kids, and if you're doing this practice, you can do this with me right now, and close your eyes and picture your kids or your loved one in uncomplicated relationship. And just notice, like, if you picture your kids in your mind or this loved one, notice the automatic, like, good feelings that you feel, and notice where that is. And just let that make you feel good. Like, let it feel good. And just see how long you can keep your attention on there. What thoughts are coming to mind? And see if you can just let that, like, expand and deepen just by paying attention to it. If you can, like, spread. And if not, that's okay, but just being aware that, like, it can spread. So this is a little 10-second practice to feel love on command whenever. And this is what my strategies are all about. It's like, how can I shift my state in the most efficient way possible, in the smallest window of time possible. So try that. Let me know what you think. Thank you for your question. Number 19, how do high performers quiet their mind without losing their passion? What daily habit gives the biggest impact for reducing stress and mental noise? I'm going to refer you back to my answer to number 8. So I've probably told you the timestamp for this already. I break down a little strategy for the very similar question on number 8. And the biggest daily habit that I found is meditation. And it could be just 10 minutes a day. Because what it is, it's not about like, okay, I meditate in the morning and then I have a stress-free day. I'm not going to like sugarcoat. I'm not going to like sell you a false dream. Like, that's not going to happen. But a 10-minute practice daily retrains your mind. It sharpens your focus. It trains mental clarity. It trains this function of like not pushing or pulling, and like lowers resistance, which is like so much of what our emotional world is. It's like, right? It like lowers the volume on that, a daily meditation practice. If you want to take it a step further, have a micro practice that you can do throughout the day. And this is something that I teach step by step in my book, a micro practice that you can take throughout your day. There's a practice that takes literally 0 time that you can do it while you're in a Zoom meeting. You can do it while you're washing the dishes. There's a practice that takes 10 seconds. This practice takes literally 10 seconds. And the compound effect of this 10-second practice will absolutely change your life. So I hope you get my book. Number 20. How can I be decisive and make decisions faster? So what I would want to know from you, number 20, is what is your human design? Because human design, like knowing your human design, will tell me exactly what your authority is. And if you go to I think it's you can find your human design in humandesign.com or whatever, and look for your authority. Whatever your authority is there, some people get their decision making from a gut feeling. Mine is splenic. My authority is the splenic authority. So what that means is my initial feeling of something is always the way to go for me. But if I ignore that initial feeling or I doubt that initial feeling, then that initial feeling's never really going to come back. I'm going to keep doubting what the decision is. I'm not saying that that's for you. I don't know what your authority is. I don't know what your human design is. For some people, they get more clarity with data. For some people, it's more of a mental yes. So I would want to know what your human design is, and that will really help me help you. So shoot me a text. Let's find out what your human design is. And I would say if I were to answer this question without knowing your human design, how can you be decisive and make decisions faster? What I would assume about you, number 20, I don't like to make assumptions, but I know you, and you're a mother and you're a woman, and I think I think that you can look at an opportunity and you can trust what your body is telling you, what your instinct is versus your mind. So the mind can always convince you of anything. It can convince you of the worst possible action, and it can convince you of the best possible thing, right? But your mind is not where you get your wisdom from. Your body is where you get your wisdom from. So always listen to what your body is telling you. If it feels right, you just know what that's like. And so for you, I would start to just notice and get really clear on okay, when something feels like a yes, you can practice this when you're eating, right? When you're looking at a menu, notice what your body responds to. If something feels like a yes, you know what that yes feels like. If it feels like a no, you know what that no feels like. Think about when you meet somebody at a networking meeting or something, or somebody just in public, or somebody introduces you to a mutual friend. And sometimes immediately you kind of get a vibe of if this is going to click or not, right? And sometimes you get a vibe of it's for sure going to click. This person's fucking awesome, right? You know what that feels like. So I would practice that. Use life as a training ground, as a practice ground for that. Thank you for your question. Number 21. How do you stop emotion from clouding the rest of your daily action when something throws you off? This is a great question. It would take me a long time to completely answer this, but if I were to answer this for the sake of this video and just supporting you in the smallest way, because this is something as this person knows, I have come so far in. I used to have one small thing completely knock me off my feet. Well, I'm going to tell you a quick story. The other day, I was setting up for a service. I was on my way to a service event. It was 7 a.m. And for some reason, before I went in my car, I checked my Facebook Messenger. And I had somebody who came attacking me in my DMs about something. And it really triggered me. And I noticed that like throughout my drive to my service event, which was about 45 minutes, I kept being like so upset and angry and annoyed at this girl for like taking time out of her life to like attack me for no reason. And I did the practice that I teach in the book. Like a part of me launching this book is me being my best student and like literally practicing this practice in my life. I did the feel rest technique. I practiced it when I would lose myself and like kind of drift away. I would come back, and I was doing this while I was driving. And I was really like, I would do the breathing technique that I did. Let me see, where is this person at? For number 11, if you want to like look at the description and find the timestamp for number 11, this person asked me what my favorite breathing practice is. I did that while I was driving, and I just kept coming back to my body. I kept coming back to like finding a restful gap, like finding like a piece of rest, just like a sliver. And you can do this by I go through this deeply in my book, but just to give you a quick example, like right now while you're listening to this, you can find rest or create rest. You can find rest in stillness, like I can think about my legs and put my attention there while I'm having this conversation with you, like a split attention. I can notice like my exhale and like let that be restful. You can do the like high vibe practice that I did for number 18. If you want to go back just like a few questions ago, for number 18, you can look at the timestamp in the description. That is a beautiful way to shift your state like right away. And then the thing is it's about just coming back to that. There's another layer of this, number 21, that I'll mention. And the benefit of a mindfulness practice is it allows you to be with what's alive, to be with what's here without pushing or pulling against it. So I can notice that I'm angry without reacting to it. I can notice my opinions about this girl reaching out to me, attacking me. I can notice my trigger, my feeling of like feeling I need to defend myself and like, how dare you? And I can feel all of those things. And just accept it and not letting it happen. It's not like I'm it. Like I am not the feeling, right? Like the thoughts that you might have during this emotional storm, like you are not those thinking thoughts, right? And my book really helps digest like the how of like creating that 1 degree of separation between you and your thoughts and you and your emotions. One thing you can do is start to like label how you, not label how you feel, but like label the feeling sensation, like notice it. It'll get bigger before it gets smaller. Like it will get hard before it gets easy. But I go through this in the book too, is like really having clarity over like what's it like in here? Like when I'm having like a big emotion, like what's it like in here? What am I noticing? And just like taking a pause to like really notice. And that act of witnessing can really help you really get clear on what's underneath it. And that clarity can help you kind of not put it to the side forever, but just kind of like put it on a shelf. Like it's still there. But what your day is full of is your day is full of presentations, your day is full of meetings, your day is full of like giving your best and giving your all. And this thing is just on the shelf for you to come and get it later. And so that's how like having a mindfulness practice operates. And I go a lot deeper in this in my core offer in my group program, launching in a few months. But for now, for you, I would say like, see what it's like to practice engaging with the emotion as a noticing, like noticing it, and see what it's like engaging, like noticing the emotion there, and then like engaging fully with like cooking a meal, or engaging fully with like eating a meal and like tasting the food. I know this might sound like elementary or like woo-woo, or I don't know. But this is very practical because you're actually training your attention on what to focus on. So if you can train your attention to focus on the feeling of the steering wheel versus the emotion, and you can just little by little train your attention for holding your attention there for 10 seconds on like what it's like to grip the steering wheel. 10 seconds. And then you kind of drift off and you get upset again, and then you come back 10 seconds. And you're training your attention to listen to you, for you to be in command. So I hope that helps. If you really practice that, it's life-changing. Number 22. Number 1, strategy to quiet. Number 2, how to increase presence. Okay, number 22, I'm going to refer you to my book. I keep saying this. All of these questions really lead to that. And that's why I was so grateful for everybody who filled this out, because you literally helped me write my book. Strategy to quiet. I think this will be really helpful. Okay. You and I have talked about what the see, hear, feel experience is. And if you're watching this and you're not number 22 and you don't know what I'm talking about, definitely get my book, because I break down how you're taking life in. So we can have an experience of hear, the sensation of hear. We can have an inner and an outer experience of that sensation. And if you have any more questions, you want to take this further, I'm totally happy to break it down for you in a voice memo or something, but put it in the comments so that people can see your question, and then I can respond to it, and it just helps everyone if you want me to go further. If I'm having a thought that's a hearing experience, I can quickly shift my attention right now to hearing my air cleaner, whatever it's called, the thing that cleans the air. I can hear that. I just heard my stomach kind of rumble. I can hear that there's a car driving down the street. Now, unless you're specifically training your attention to have split attention and focus on two things at the same time, if you're focused on the sound of the car, if you're focused on the sound of the music that you might be playing in your car, and the details and the rhythm and the details of what you hear, you're not attaching to I hear an airplane. Where's that airplane going? I wonder who's in that airplane, right? You're not attaching yourself to the context of what you're hearing. You're just noticing what you're hearing as a sound. So you want to notice hear in and use that label to yourself, hear in, your mind is getting loud, hear in, and then hear out. This works really well, especially if you're in a conversation with someone and you get distracted by your own mind. Hear out. And then you're just with precision hearing their voice, their dictation, you're hearing their voice, right? And that's a really quick way to get present and quiet the mind. And then read my book, because that's going to take it to a whole nother level. Thank you for your question. Number 23. How do I focus myself on needle-moving tasks and not busy work? I tend to use stress as a motivator, but that leads to hard crashes. How would you recommend using stress in a more positive manner? So to answer your first question, number 23, I'm going to refer you to my answer to number 14 as far as focusing on priorities and actually getting priorities done instead of busy work. That's just convinces you that you were productive when you were really just not. So look at the timestamp in the description of this video and look for my answer to number 14's question, okay? Because I go through that. And using stress in a more positive manner. This is an interesting question. I don't know if I don't really know how to answer your question, to be honest. How would you recommend using stress in a more positive manner? I mean, my immediate thought when I heard this question was just going back to I don't want to make this complicated, and tell me if this is complicated or if it's like easy to understand. When you're stressed, and I talk about this in the book, like really being aware of what your inner life experience is, noticing it, labeling it, resting around it. And I break down strategically what that's like and how to do it and how to do it effectively and how to do it in like very little time. But let's say you were to never read my book. The advice I would give you is get really good at noticing what your inner life is when you're stressed and it's like not helpful. Notice what it's like when you're caught in that. Notice what your thoughts are. Notice what you're feeling. And not what you're feeling, like labeling, like I'm angry, I'm frustrated, no, but like notice like the sensation, like my shoulders are tight. My chest has heat, like I'm noticing heat, right? I'm having mental images of like a worst case scenario, right? Notice what your inner life is like. And when you can start to practice noticing, you start to create this separation that I keep talking about, where you are not this stress response. And the more that you can like step back and then step back again and then take another step back, as you not being the stress response, but noticing your system, noticing your see, hear, feel system, which I go over in the book. What a see, hear, feel system is noticing your system, responding, reacting to its environment, starting to have grace with that. Like, of course, your system would respond this way. Like, look at the facts, right? Having some grace for yourself, I think, is the very first step, because the more that you resist something, the more that you say like it's wrong, it's bad, it should not be this way, the bigger it gets. Like resistance, like resisting anything, like it's just going to get bigger. So the more that you can like meet it head on, that's really going to help you deal with stress. And then I think you get to redefine what that stress is. You can kind of notice that pressure and get underneath it. And you know what? Number 23, I would recommend actually do this. So definitely do what I just said, but also go to my answer, look in the timestamp in the description, go to my answer to number 10's question, because I go over a little practice that can really help you look inside of the stress. And let me know what that's like. Put a comment in so that I know what that's like for you, because I want to be able to respond and I want other people to see like if they have the same question, right? It helps everybody. So thank you for your question. Okay, number 23. I thought about your question a little bit more, and my reflection for you would be, when you find yourself like caught up in stress and you have to work, what are you focused on? Like, are you focused on the context of like the situation that's stressful? Because when it comes to creating, like using stress as a motivator, the same reason that you are working, right? You're working to like avoid something, right? Maybe to avoid like not having money. And you're also working towards something. You're working towards more money. You're working towards solving problems. You're working towards building relationships with your customers, whatever it is. So my reflection for you would be, what are you working towards? Not what are you moving away from? What are you avoiding? But like, if your motivator, if you're trying to like flip stress on its head, how can you allow this pressure to get you to focus on what you're moving towards? Because you're going to be taking the action regardless. But if you can put your attention on where you're working towards versus what you're avoiding, I think that answers your question better than I did originally, of like how to use pressure as a motivator. Because yeah, it's motivating to move towards something, to move towards a new opportunity, to move towards a new result, to move towards more money, to more better progress, right? So I hope that helps. 24. What are your favorite things? What is your favorite thing to do to be and stay present? What grace do you give yourself when you react to a moment and the feeling bad Start over. What grace do you give yourself when you react to a moment and then feeling bad for reacting off emotions and not logically? Also, you're awesome. So happy for your journey. Thank you, buddy. Okay, number 24. So, what is your favorite thing to do and be and stay present? Read my book. I love engaging with my life. Here's what that really means in real words. Seeing, like, if I'm looking at a sunset, like, I'm really seeing it. Like, I'm not, like, in my mind. Like, I'm really noticing, like, the colors. If I'm at the ocean, like, the waves. I'm noticing, like, the trees and how they sway. I'm noticing the changing of the colors. I'm noticing the sounds of, like, kids laughing, right? People running. I'm noticing how it feels to, like, be there watching a sunset. I'm, like, fully engaged with my experience, and I do that with my senses. I'm, like, fully in my senses. That's my favorite way to stay present. And then number 24, I would go back to look at the timestamp because I answered this question for number 10. So go to the description and find the timestamp for the answer to number 10's question. And that will get you into grace after you maybe, like, you know, just acted out of yourself. And it's like immediate compassion. It's really good. Thank you for your question. Number 26. I think these are more general questions versus questions directed to you, but I'm going to answer them anyways. I'm going to do my best. But number 1, is my current state appropriate for the challenge at hand, or am I projecting due to overwhelm or misalignment of priorities? What is the best way to identify a next step or task to focus on with many priorities pulling my attention? Okay. So if I'm reading between the lines, it sounds like you're just overwhelmed. It sounds like you're overwhelmed. And when you're overwhelmed, it's really hard to be mentally clear about anything. When you're overwhelmed, it's really hard to be clear about anything. So I would really think about what is this is actually completely off, not what I thought I would say. I want you to go back to think about your success patterns. Think about the very first time when you were a child, okay? Stick with me here. Go back to when you were a child and you succeeded at something. Maybe it was I don't know, I'm just going to use the example of choir. Maybe you were in choir and you got a standing ovation. Maybe you were in soccer and you shot the goal and everybody was cheering for you. Maybe you got good grades, whatever that was. Think about what your motivation was for that. I'm going to give you an example. My example is choir. And my success pattern was making sure that I did a good job so that I would please others. Now, I used to think this was a bad thing. I used to think oh, I don't want to achieve success that way. It's not about that. It should be something different. Well, it is what it is. I do a really good job when I want positive feedback from someone. So that means, for example, for this book, it's I want to get positive feedback. So I'm going to make sure I make the best fucking training manual ever to help people shut their minds off. I'm going to do my absolute best because I want to please other people. I want them to be happy with my product, right? That's a success pattern. Another thing is practice. I would practice the piano. I would practice singing with my abuelo as often as possible, right? Practice was a part of my success pattern. So think about what your success pattern is, because when you're saying your current state, if your current state is appropriate for the challenge, I'm just wondering if that's just you saying you're overwhelmed and maybe you're just not you just don't have the capacity for it. And not having the capacity for something doesn't mean that you're not capable. Those are two different things. But but if you don't have the capacity for something, like, it's just not going to work. And there's ways to soften your capacity, expand your capacity. Mindfulness practice absolutely makes you so much more resilient to like life challenges and being able to like get shit done around challenges. But those are my thoughts for your question. Is just really thinking like, okay, what is my capacity right now? Like, what can I actually take on? And just being really honest with that and getting help where you can. And I would say the biggest thing I'm reading between the lines here is like really paying attention to like what is your relationship to your thoughts? How are you relating to these thoughts? Because if they're like constantly looping, that might not be like truth. It might just be your mind, you know? So I don't know if that's clear or not, but I'm not super clear on your question. So that was my best shot at answering a question that I wasn't super clear on. And the best way to identify next steps on a task is and I know that you're really good at this because I know you, like you're really good at like getting shit done. Just literally put a brain dump. Like, I'm sure you've heard this before. Maybe you needed to hear it again. Just doing a complete brain dump on everything that needs to get done. Like, I wish I had it here. I could show you my launch list for this book, for the program that comes after that, for all these other things is like a gigantic list. I've never seen a list so big in my entire life. I just write it all down and I just do one thing at a time. And then every day when I sit down at my computer, I have a big post-it note and I write down all the things that are possible within that time block of what I can get done. And then what I do to prioritize my priorities is I put an A, B, or C next to each thing based on the priority for the day. And I've been able to get a lot more done just by using that system of the prioritizing everything and like brain dumping everything on a big list and then having a smaller list for when I am at my laptop and I'm actually like have the time block to do those things. So I hope that's helpful. Number 27. What are your top 2 ways to handle stress and how to focus on staying present when I'm always thinking about ways to grow for the future? I love that question. Stress is hard. I can tell a lot of you are really stressed. I think stress gets worse when we really try to act like it's normal. Like we really try to act like it's okay. We really try to act like I got this, you know, instead of being like, this is hard, you know? And that's not really like a top 2 ways to handle stress, but I'm just thinking about like whenever I've overcome stress, you know, it was more than just a mindfulness technique. Like, I mean, read my book, like it will definitely help you like in the moment to like drop in and get present. But if you can create some kind of like padding in your life where you make time for joy and for rest around stress, and usually stress is related to like having limitations around time. But for example, like this morning, I had so much to do. And I'm like, I just started this puzzle and I'm like super hooked on it. For some reason, it's ginormous, like way bigger than I thought it would be. And it's going to take way longer and there's a million pieces. There's 1,000 pieces, okay? I was not prepared for like just how intense it would be. And it's like, I just took 10 minutes to do it in the morning, like just 10 minutes because it made me happy. And that joy pours into everything else that I do. So whatever it looks like for you to create padding around your day, like a joy padding, you know? Like if you think about like the reason I say padding is kind of like I think about like a padded room for some reason, like you're stressed and you're like bouncing off the walls. But if you have a padded room, like it's not that, you know, you're not gonna like bang your head against the wall. It's like, oh, I have a cushion here. Maybe I could even like take a little nap, you know? And little bursts of joy throughout your day can be really helpful. Technique wise, go to my book and look in the description. I'm going to refer you to my answer to number 8's question because she had a very similar question. So look in the description to my answer to number 8's question in the timestamp, and that will address your answer there. And definitely recommend just like joy padding in your life. Like making sure you dance every day. Like just one song, like what is that, 3 minutes? Okay. Number 28. I didn't see a question, but I did see something else that looked like a question. How many of you can relate to like being caught in an urgency loop? Everything feels urgent. Everything feels like it needs to get done now. And it always feels like you're constantly behind. Here's the thing. That is your mind. That is your mind taking over. You need to get the reins back. Get control back. Notice that that's not the core wise you, number 28. That's your mind. And you need to notice that it's your mind that's convinced of this urgency loop. You know what? You did have a question here, and I just remembered it. But for some reason, it got deleted. Your question, number 28, was how do I know if I'm tired or if I'm just being lazy? Like if I need a break or I'm just being lazy. I know you, number 28. You are tired. Period. Stop playing. Like, stop trying to act like you're not tired. Like, you need a nap. That's it. That's my recipe for you. Take a freaking nap. Or if you don't have time for a nap, or if you're not interested in a nap, read my book. Because my book is going to teach you a strategy to, like, take care of yourself in 10 seconds or more. Take care of yourself while you're rushing through the day and, like, really have deep self-care. So you are tired. Like, look at your life. Of course you're tired. Like, let yourself be tired. Ask for help. Like, find ways to get little things off of your list. And when we ask for help, we give other people the chance to be of service to us. And that can be such a gift. But when we don't ask for help, we're really taking that gift away from them to show up for us. Because the people who love you, they want to show up for you. But you don't give them the chance if you never ask for help. And I know you're tired, so take a nap. Number 29. How do you use IG as a tool and not let it distract you? What habits do you use to set yourself up for a day of work? Number 29. Okay. So I fall into the doom scrolling every now and then, but I've gotten a lot better at like reining it in. And I would say like the biggest difference I've noticed when I started doing this is I grab my phone. You know how the like unconscious, oh, I'm just going to check it like unconsciously, right? There's not like a purpose. You're not going there for a specific reason. You're just like, oh, I'm just going to see what's new. Girl, nothing, it can wait. I just tell myself like it's going to be there later. Like I noticed that automaticity. I love that word. I noticed the automatic like reaction, right? And again, this comes down to like your mind and your reactivity and your emotion, like the emotional reactivity to like react and go. And not even like having an option, but like just your mind being like, dip, 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 right? So practice that. Practice just noticing, like, what happens when I just grab my phone unconsciously? What happens when I'm like in a trance? What's happening? And when you notice it, you can really shake yourself out of it, because if you can see the trance, then you're not in a trance anymore. So let me know what you think about that, and let me know in the comments, because it helps other people. Because I know everybody else struggles with this. Like, you are not alone. The thing is, nobody's talking about the fact that they're actually addicted to social media, and everybody's acting like they have it together, and people don't talk about it. But you're not alone. How do you balance having high standards and getting things done quickly and efficiently while also being peaceful and present? So the first thing is just like one thing at a time. And I really like the idea of like just brain dumping all of it. Well, let me actually pause really quick. Number 30, how do you balance having high standards and getting things done quickly and efficiently while also being peaceful and present? So I would say read my book. I'm going to go through like a strategy with you. I'm going to hold your hand through it step by step about how to be peaceful and present and super high functioning at the same time. Like, you're going to learn a practice that you can do while you're at your laptop. Okay? You don't have to like break away for it. Also, you can go to the description in this video and look at the timestamp where I answered number 8's question about how to, how to be in like a high stakes moment and like be calm and present when you're doing that. So I would refer you to that. Thank you for your question. Let me add one more thing to this, because I want to make sure you're not confusing having high standards with being a perfectionist. Because having high standards and expecting perfection are two different things. So you need to make sure, like, you need to just do a little gut check if you're having like healthy expectations of yourself, healthy expectations of your capacity and your time. Reflect on that. Reflect on that, and that will give you the answer, because you'll start to accept like, okay, what your boundaries are, what your guardrails are, knowing your capacity and how much time you have. And like, there's a difference between having high standards and like being caught in perfectionist and like, I'm not being perfect. And I have struggled with that too. And I constantly have to check myself, like, girl, like, the goal is not to be perfect. So I hope that helps. Number 31, how can I be just as productive as a single person as I'm working side by side with someone? What are little cues that I can manufacture that make me excited to work that day? So I just got like a little vision of like setting a timer. Like, for you, I would probably set a timer, and maybe it's like 30 minutes at a time, like giving yourself 30 minutes at a time, like 30-minute increments for like super focused work. And then like a 5-minute or maybe a 2-minute gap where you're walking around your house or your office, do a little vinyasa, like get some sunlight, something like that. I think it also depends like what kind of work you're doing, because there's definitely been moments for me where it's like I can focus for 4 hours on my kitchen table all by myself. And then there's times where it's like, whoa, I just co-worked with a good friend of mine and like I got so much done, like so much more done, right? So the environment, like, is your environment conducive to you focusing? Is it? And then I also want you to, I answered this question with someone else's question, and I want you to look at the description in this video and go to the timestamp where I answered 23's question. So I answered number 23's question about, just look for the timestamp in the description for number 23's question, and that's really going to help you with this. It's really going to help you. So thank you for your question. Little cues that you can manufacture to make you excited to work that day. Well, I love treating myself to chocolate and like cookies and stuff. So you could always like set a little reward for yourself. If you know that that's your success pattern that works for you, you could be like, hey, when I make 50 calls, when I make 20 calls, I'm gonna have me a cookie. or I'm going to go get a matcha, or whatever your thing is. And that could be really fun. You could also do a bigger one, right? Where you're doing like a big reward, like a spa day or something after like a massive goal. But this sounds like it's more minute. It sounds like it's more like a work day thing. So listen to that and then listen to it again. Okay. Number 32. What habits work for you? I like getting into nature and meditation. Do you have exercises you do during the day to recenter? Yes, I do. I love my feel rest practice. There's a technique that I laid out in my book, Half Present, that is going to literally teach you like the practice that I bring in my day that fits seamlessly into my day without taking any extra time. And I love doing that when I'm in nature, when I'm at my laptop. Like I can literally do it anywhere, anytime. And I feel like it really helps me recenter. The other thing I will do is I'm going to refer you to another answer I gave to number 24's question. So I answered this question, a version of this in number 24's answer. So go to the description below and look at the timestamp for number 23's answer. Okay. Number 34. I love high performance habits that I can do quickly in 30 seconds to 3 minutes. LOL. Okay, girl. Definitely read my book. The other thing I would say is I want to refer you to number 8, the answer that I gave for number 8's question about like how to navigate like high stress moments and like high stress negotiations and things like that. So go to the timestamp in the description and look for the answer to number 8's question, and that's going to give you like a 10-second practice. Okay, another 10-second practice you can do, I answered this in number 18's question, so go to the timestamp for number 18 and I'll give you like a little micro practice that is going to give you all the good feelings. Okay. Okay, number 36. Final question. What's the best strategy you have for popping back into presence and productivity? What would you advise as hacks to help someone train the habit beyond knowing what to do and actually doing it? Okay, let me look at your first question first. The best strategy. Okay, so I'm going to refer you to how I answered number 22's question. So go to the timestamp in the description for number 22, because number 22 asked me strategy to quiet and how to increase presence, and I fully answered that. Like I gave you like a very simple practice you can do with like literally no extra time, like no time blocking or anything, and it'll snap you right back into the moment. And this goes for presence and productivity. Like if you find yourself drifting off, like that will help you get back in. Especially for moments if you're listening to a client, but then your mind is like having a whole nother conversation. And how I answered number 22, was that what I said? Number 22's question will answer that for you. And then for productivity, I answered this question also in number 23's question. And I taught a little mini micro practice in the timestamp for number 23's question. And I'd love for you to try that and let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments so that it helps everyone else, or just it helps everyone see it, right? So I'd love to know how that works for you. Try it, the timestamp for number 23. And then lastly, what would you advise as hacks to help someone train the habit beyond knowing what to do and actually doing it? So I would want to know more. Number 36, like I would ask you, like if we were at dialoguing, I would ask you like more details to just understand if you're like trying to like habit stack, if you're trying to get rid of a habit, if you're trying to add a habit. And just the other thing that's coming to mind for me is like doing one thing at a time. Like if you're already practicing, if you already like have a bunch of new things that you're doing, just straight up knowing your capacity for more. Maybe it's cutting loose one of the habits to that you already have down, like you already have a really strong foundation in one of those habits, what can you kind of like soften around and then add something else that's brand new, or add something else that is like so important for you to strengthen? And also getting clear on like why do you want to add that habit in? The difference between knowing and actually doing it, what I've noticed is self-trust. And self-trust goes beyond integrity. Like, I could talk about integrity all day long, and you are one of the most integrous people that I know. So I know integrity is not your problem, and I know self-trust probably isn't either. Like, you're really solid in your word. But when you have like a next level self-trust with yourself and you say this new habit matters, really sit with that. Like, you're going to do it if it matters enough. I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for. I don't know if that helps. Let me know. And also, like, just make, like, how can you make it really easy for yourself to win? Right? Like, if I want to start a new habit, like, for example, I kind of fell off journaling for a little bit. And so I just keep my journal out and I have it ready when I want to. And I used to do like 3 pages of journaling. I don't got time for that anymore. But if I want to journal like 2 sentences, yay, I journaled today. And so, what would it look like for you to make it super easy for you to win? Maybe this new habit is not every single day for the rest of your life. Maybe this new habit is like you start out once a week, right? Ask yourself, like, how can you make it really easy for you to win? And I know that you know all this stuff because you are one of the most badass coaches that I know. But sometimes we just maybe need to hear like our own words back to us, right? I'm sure you give teachings on like trainings on this to your people. So, yeah, like see what lands. I would love to know actually, like what lands for you. Like, what's like an idea you're like, oh, word, like facts. And let me know in the comments because it helps everybody else. I wanted to add one more thing in here for you, and um, like the gap between knowing that it's good for you and doing it. There's like a micro practice. I don't know if I mentioned this already. There's a micro practice that is like, I don't know why it works so well. I guess maybe it's my job to know, but I mean, I get why it works, but it's like crazy. I actually did a whole workshop on procrastination with literally this technique, and everybody was like mind blown. So I talk a little bit about that technique and how to do it on a micro level, like before you open your laptop or whatever the task is. Let me just find the person I answered this question for. So go to number 23 in the timestamp in the description of this video and like try that practice. And I want to know how it works because that will probably fill the gap between like wanting to do this new habit and like actually doing it. I can't believe I forgot to say that, but okay, try that. Oh my gosh, this has been so fun. Thank you so much to everybody who filled out this survey. This video is going to help so many people who have the same questions. If you notice, like, there was like a heavy repeating pattern of like so many of the same questions because you're not the only one. So I hope this like reminds you, like, you're not the only one struggling with this. You're not the only one that has these questions. You're not the only one that feels behind. You're not the only one who's distracted. You're not the only one who feels like they're not doing enough. And the fact that all these high achievers like have a lot of the same questions, it just points to that. And I just want to like sincerely say thank you so much to everybody who is taking the time to do this survey. I know how precious and valuable your time is, and I'm just so grateful that you chose to support me in this book, because when I like really started digesting the answers and the questions and everything that was in this survey, I pivoted the messaging of the book completely. Like completely. The problem that I thought I was solving was not the problem that people want solved. It's a different problem. And in my book, Half Present, it's a training manual for how to shut your mind off, because what I'm noticing is you don't have like an I'm behind problem, because you're not like actually behind. You don't have an I'm behind problem. You have like a nagging thoughts problem. And the nagging thoughts are all about like your relationship to your thoughts. Can you separate yourself from your thinking? Can you shut your brain off for the moments that you need it the most in a high stakes situation? In a conversation with your lover, during a pitch, when you're just trying to relax and like your mind is just telling you all the ways that you're behind and you're not enough and all the things you have to do tomorrow and you cannot shut it up. Like, this book is a training manual to like literally take your hand and walk you through how to strategically make this a non-issue, like for good. So I hope you get my book. It's linked in the description below. And if you want to like browse through the other questions, that could be fun. And if you have any other questions, I'd love to support you if I can. Thank you tremendously. Thank you. And by the way, if you know anybody who would benefit from listening to this video, like definitely share it to them. No gatekeeping, okay? Big hug.